Yes, indeed. We've got Mr. Kayode Williams here with us. He's of the Prison Rehabilitation Network. Good morning, and thank you for coming today. Well, we just heard the PRO talking about some of the challenges they're facing. He proposed solutions as to what needs to be done. You've heard some of what he said as to the reason why he says we should use the word prison break of what happened in Minna. But having listened to him, what suggestions do you have in terms of how do we ensure that that doesn't happen again?
Well, I think the main problem we have about the prisons for now is that the leadership in the prison, that is starting from the Controller General and his management team, have not really sit down to look at the real work of prisons. Prisons is for rehabilitation, reformation, reintegration, and resettlement. And the inmates that are inside supposed to be treated with milk of human kindness, not like animals. So most of the problems there is no funding, there is a clinic now. We have, how many clinics do they have? Where do they have the hospitals? If there is an emergency on cardiac arrest in the prison, can they stand it? There's nothing on ground. You don't defend what is not. What they need to focus on is training and retraining. Go to advanced countries, see the way they train prisoners, see the way the prison officers. They should not feel inferior to other parastatals. The prison is having inferiority complex. Though there are young and intelligent prison officers. But if you look at he's talking of external aggression that breaks the jail for this time. But do you want to tell me that there is no networking?
Well, between who? Those
inmates in the prison with some people who are mafias outside. Who has the networking of talking together?
So does that mean you think that what happened is actually jailbreak?
It is. Somebody must have, they have somebody there they want to release. They did not just went there to just begin to release people. They has a motive. There must be a reason. That is where we have to look at.
But one of the points he made is that the prisons are overcongested.
How?
He says, look, we also had the AGF saying 70%, about 70% of those in prisons today are awaiting trial mates. So that contributes largely to the unrest, the challenges that all these breaks here and there that we have in prisons, that if that were addressed, you may not have this kind of scenario, people breaking out.
Right. Let's agree that there is a congestion in urban areas, in urban cities, like Lagos here, like Kano, like Ibadan, like Enugu. But when you talk of congestion in the prison, there are so many prisons that are locking below the capacity.
Like which ones?
There are so many other prisons, like prisons in different areas that are not urban area. They have over 225 prisons with satellite prisons.
But if the urban prisons are in very bad shape, doesn't that give us an idea of how the ones in the rural areas will be? It will be terrible.
The rural areas are not as bad as the maximum that we call. Even what we call maximum is not maximum. When you are talking of maximum security. Because it's not easy. It's so porous that people will just come from outside to attack. When you say they came from outside, where are your armed men? They have trained armed men in the Nigerian prison. Where is their commander? The commander of the armed squad men. What is happening?
Yeah, so now let's assume that training is a challenge. As you said,
exactly.
If they need to train them. Now, if they go ahead and train the officers there, how is that going to help or address the congestion that we have in prisons?
Issue of congestion is not limited to the prison. It starts from the police investigating, the Ministry of Justice, that is the judiciary. They dovetail into one another, and the prisons. if the police conducted and have their their investigation on time and prosecute their matters before the judge, and the trial judges give quick judgment in cases, because the problem is in the judiciary is that they delay some cases for years. Adjournment, and some cases are cases that some magistrate cannot handle. It has to go to the High Court. Some are there. Some even they are talking of only the awaiting trials. The awaiting trials are many, not only because they don't have people to bail them, but because there are demands.
From who?
The inmates now. There is a case in the Kayode prison here now. A prisoner was transferred from Thailand prison over 14 years ago. We set out to make sure that we get some of them released. Over 360 were released to our organization. Through Obasanjo was in government. Yaradua came in and also released. The problem we now have is that this man's name was missed out. Only one person. Only one person. And since then, up to today, this man is still languishing at Kayode prison. So when you are talking of incitement from the prison, this is a man who has spent almost 15 years at Thailand prison. Now repatriated. Others, all his colleagues have been released.
But isn't this case an isolated case? Is it that rampant? Because we've had prison breaks way before this one.
No, I'm just giving you an example of people that are in the prison that are more dangerous to handle. Because when somebody is overdue for release and nobody wants to step into his case, several times the lawyer, he has called me, we've spoken to the lawyer, the welfare officers in the prisons knows about his case, but they are afraid to take his case to the necessary authority because the mistake came from the prison. There was a typographical mistake by not inserting his name from the prison.
So why can't they correct it?
That's the only problem.
So if they correct it, what happens?
If they correct it, they will just forward the name and said, we make a mistake. But because of this inferiority complex.
But then, if they were to treat that particular matter and take a look at, because congestion of prisons is huge.
Exactly.
And it's been talked about prison reforms for a very long time. How far away do you think we are to achieving these objectives of, number one, reforming the prisons, I beg your pardon, fast-tracking the ATMs and ensuring that things happen well?
It's so simple as ABC.
With all those agencies involved?
Yes, they just have to work. Everybody should do his work. If the police fail in coming to court or fail in having his evidences to be to be presented, the judge should do the necessary thing. You don't put the blame on the person that is incarcerated, somebody in the prison. You allow him to suffer just because of the negligence or lack of responsibility of somebody.
Well, yeah. I wanted to ask the question. You say they all need to do their jobs.
Exactly.
Let's look at the personnel in the Nigerian prison service. Do you think they are properly equipped to do that job you're saying they should do?
They are. They have fine, intelligent, young, educated prison officers. But because of these old warders, archaic warders, who have stayed there on top, they don't allow the young, intelligent prison officers to do what they know. And they don't allow these young, intelligent graduates. They've employed so many graduates into the prison office, prison services. But they are not allowed to do their work.
What about the question of infrastructure? Besides the personnel that are not allowed to work, what about the question of infrastructure and funding?
You see, issue of, the training of officers in the prison determines on the leadership. If the leadership is ready to move, the people will move. I told you that I was watching on your program, and I saw the surroundings of the prisons. Was that prison illuminated with lights at night? Who are the guards surrounding the prisons, taking guard? Even when you look at the sentry man, the man that was standing on top of the something, you see that the sentry position has no roof. The roof has been blown off. So the negligence is in so many ways. But the issue of really working on the awaiting trials depend on the criminal justice system. That is, the judiciary must be ready to be proactive. The police must be ready. The prison is the end product. Now, the prison, they bring after everybody has done his own work. So they dump. And awaiting trials cannot be transferred. That's what they will tell you. They will say they cannot transfer them to rural areas because their case is in Lagos.
Question of jurisdiction. All right, Mr. Kayode Williams is of the Prison Rehabilitation Network. We always appreciate your comment on this morning. Thank you for coming on again today.
You are welcome.
Well, we'll be back in a moment. Don't go away.